What is up, Bizarre Society, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Bizarre Inquiries. I am the one that some refer to as Shane, and others refer to as the original Shane Squatch.
I'm gonna get off by cranking your knob just a little beyond the breaking point.
I just might, actually. And alongside me, I have the usual, the big bad boo daddy himself, Sir Orin Felix.
Yes, Daddy.
Got to bring that one back. It's been a while since I've used that one, so we gotta throw in a little moan here and there, right? Because we've kept it pretty PG for a while, so yeah, you got to throw in a little X rating here and there, right?
Well, you also haven't used the cracking your knob one in a while, so I mean, you're just busting
I figured
out all
that was
the
an oldie but a
throwbacks.
goodie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to bring back the oldies but goodies, man, because you can't overkill them. But if you wait enough time and then you bring them back, dude, it's perfect timing, right?
Hey, I'll take your word for it.
Well, as everybody happened to have saw last week, we unfortunately ran into a spot where I was a little bit delayed with the kids, so we weren't able to record the last episode of Bizarre Inquiry or Bizarre Encounters. But we will definitely be getting to that in the next week or so. But this week, as usual for you guys, the first of the month, we have Bizarre Inquiries. So we're going to be diving into some weird stuff today. Unlike usual, we mixed it up a little bit last time. This time, actually, Orin has the two articles. So we're going to be doing a reverse sandwich of how we normally do it. So I guess without further ado, Orin, why don't you let him know what the first thing we're getting into today is?
All right, so the first article I brought today is something that's a little more topical and like current events style article. So unless you've got anything else, I'll go ahead and jump into it, Shane.
I'll bring it up for you, sir.
All right, so this article comes from Yahoo News, and it is titled, Fact Check. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested 666 days after blood-soaked royal horse escaped in London, which is like the most made-up sounding headline ever, but I assure you it is not made up.
Have you ever watched Dexter?
A little bit.
Okay, so there's a part in that, I think it's in like the fourth season, where there's the Doomsday Killer. And they do this thing where it's like the four horses of the apocalypse, where they have like, you know, the dead body like attached to it and all that kind of shit. This just reminds me of that scene in Dexter, personally. Like, it just seems like straight fiction because the first thing I associate it with is that show.
Well, I think there's a lot of corollaries with like the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I was planning on kind of talking about that a little bit after we run through the article, so I'm glad you brought that up. But I'll go ahead and jump into the article unless you got anything else.
Just a little bit excited about the four horsemen. I always love chatting about that stuff.
All right, so let's go. All right. Was Andrew Mountbatten Windsor arrested 666 days after blood-soaked horse associated with the royal family escaped in London? Yes, that's true. The former Prince Andrew was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office on February 19th, 2026. I think that kind of really like underplays like everything that was going on with him, but we won't get into that. This came 666 days after a separate incident on April 24th, 2024, in which 5 horses from the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment threw their riders and ran through the British capital. The claim appeared in a post published on X on February 20th, 2026. The text in the post read, Prince Andrew was arrested on his 66th birthday by 6 police officers exactly 666 days after this happened. Wild. And then it has some screenshots
Brother.
Of this blood-soaked horse running through the streets of London. So for all you just listeners out there, it's like a white horse, and the whole front of this horse and its legs are just like caked in blood.
It looks like a PETA protest, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
gnarly.
probably the best way I can describe it.
So the article goes on to say, both things mentioned in the social media post are true, and they did happen 666 days apart, as calculated by the Time and Date website. There is no apparent link between them, other than they are connected to the royal family in one way or another. Sure, whatever you say. On April 24th of 2024, 5 household cavalry horses, including one soaked with blood, ran loose in central London after throwing their military riders during a morning exercise. The regiment is ceremonial, representing King Charles III and the nation. On February 19th of 2026, UK police arrested Mountbatten Windsor, the younger brother of King Charles III, on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Police had previously said that they were reviewing claims that Andrew shared sensitive information with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein while serving as an envoy. Although not directly stated, the 666 in the post appears to imply a demonic connection. The number comes from the book of Revelation in the Bible. It is called the number of the beast. Many Christians believe it refers to the Antichrist, or figure that represents evil in opposition to God. So, do you have any thoughts about this, Shane?
I mean, I can already kind of see the symbolism in it. If, everybody that may not be aware of all the weird stuff that's going on with Prince Andrew, obviously he basically got like blacklisted from the family. He's got a lot of weird stuff going on in the background. That could probably be something for a whole other episode.
Yeah,
but,
there's a lot to unpack
talking
there.
about like occult symbolism. I mean, 666 days after, of course, and this is like part of the destruction, I guess, of like the royal family. So it's almost like maybe issuing like an end time for themselves. Like, I don't know. I kind of see it as like they're trying to signify some type of symbolism with it, and they're trying to act like it's something that's, oh, we had nothing to do with this. But even if it was simply just Prince Andrew himself, like he clearly had some type of occult interest in this, in the extent of saying maybe like, the end times are starting because the family's collapsing, possibly. Like that's where my mind's going.
Well, and I think, especially in light of current events and impending World War III, I just think it's like
World War IV, as Alex Jones says. We already did World War III.
It's just like really hard to overlook, like we said, the four horsemen of the apocalypse angle to all this. And for a lot of you guys out there that might not be familiar with the four horsemen of the apocalypse and that whole concept, this comes from the book of Revelation. The first horse is said to represent conquest and is a white horse. So it's pretty funny that this is a white horse that they showed here. The second horse represents war and is a red horse. So now you've got this white horse covered in blood becoming a red horse representing war.
I was going to say you're symbolizing two at once.
Yeah. The third horse is said to represent famine or poverty and is a black horse. And
which in that picture, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a black horse right behind that horse?
There's like a
right there in the picture?
There's a YouTube video that's like somewhere on the article, and it's really not worth watching. It just kind of shows the horses running through the streets, but there's like multiple black horses running with this white horse covered in blood. So it looked like all the other ones were like black or brown or something like that. But
so it's almost like issuing that the last thing to come that hasn't quite come yet is death.
Well, yeah, and the fourth horse is the pale horse, which again has a lot of like conspiracy angles and behold a pale horse and all that, and represents death. But I did find this other kind of interesting article, and Shane, I just found it this evening, so I didn't send it to you. But I'm just going to run through some quick little snippets from this. It's from newscovenantway.com, and it just talks a little bit about like the biblical idea of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. But anyway, it starts off by talking about the different horses and the colors like we talked about. And it points out that the black horse, the one that we said kind of represents famine, is also linked with, let me find it here, poverty and rising prices, which is, again, very interesting in light of current events. So there's like two main views of this four horsemen of the apocalypse idea. It's and this is going to kind of play into some of the stuff we talked about on our recent I can't remember what you called it, like the bizarre theories of altered time.
Yep.
Yeah, when we talked about excuse me, Satan's Little Season, and then what was the other one we talked about? It was New Chronology and Phantom Time and all that. But anyway, so this is going to kind of tie in with the Satan's Little Season stuff. So one of the views of the four horsemen of the apocalypse is, again, this is all stuff that's going to happen in the future at the apocalypse. It says here, if you're a futurist, you'll apply these horses to something in the future. Most futurists say that the rider on the white horse is the Antichrist. He appears divine and royal, but is riding to conquer the world. The red horse represents war and bloodshed, with some futurists getting more detailed, calling the rider on this horse Russia with Arab allies. Again, very interesting in light of current events. The black horse represents famine as prices increase and food is scarce in the Great Tribulation. And the pale horse represents massive death on earth as hell begins to attack the world with disease and war on a grand scale. But there is this other view that kind of ties into the Satan's Little Season stuff. And this kind of says that, to recap, that the tribulation and Jesus's second coming kind of already happened, and we're living in this season where Satan is allowed to, come back and deceive the nations. So a view that a lot of that end times prophecy has already happened is called preterism. And this says the preterist view of the horses. Preterists believe these horses were symbolic and represented something around AD 70 when Jerusalem was destroyed, which we talked about in that episode. If you're a preterist, you'll apply these horses to something around that time. The white horse could represent the Roman army coming victoriously to conquer Jerusalem, or it could be Christ coming to conquer against the enemies, or his enemies rather, the unbelieving Jews. The red horse signifies that peace would be taken from the land of Jerusalem. The black horse represents famine, as there was an extreme food shortage in Jerusalem around AD 70, which we also talked about in the episode. And then, of course, the green horse, as it's sometimes referred to, or the pale horse, represents death by pestilence, which basically is just like, starvation and lack of food and things of that nature. So anyway, I thought all that was super interesting. When I first found this article, I knew I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't know how much it would tie into the last episode deep dive that we did until I found this, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse angle to it. So sorry for kind of running off at the mouth there. Do you have anything you want to add to all that?
No, I mean, just the fact that, a lot of people want to think that, conspiracy theorists, people like us, dive too much into things like this and assume that there's a bunch of symbolism and all this type of stuff. But honestly, though, you start diving into these families and you realize that, every single thing that they have in their house has some type of symbolism to it. Every single thing that they have on their lapels and everything has some type of symbolism to it. And you realize that they're very, very adamant about the symbolism and trying to get the group to start putting this thought onto these particular ideas and these particular concepts. So it's a matter of, one of the greatest diversions is, making people believe that it doesn't exist in the first place, but their mindset is still on it, where, something like this, a lot of people want to try to throw it off to the side. But, I think that considering the track record we already know with the royal family, there's less doubt in my mind that there isn't symbolism to it than there is. I would assume that there is, because how does this just happen, especially when it's a regular event all the time? It just seems like such a bizarre thing to happen, especially the 66 days or 666 days after, and all the stuff going on with the prince. I kind of see it as, I was kind of mentioning earlier, they're almost symbolizing that the world as we know it is collapsing, but as these royal families collapse, as these governments and stuff collapse, this Antichrist figure is going to pop out. So another kind of weird thing to think about is that the white horse itself doesn't actually have a rider on it. Obviously, the whole thing is they say the rider got thrown off, but I mean, it could also be symbolic for the fact that, it is coming, but this rider hasn't actually been chosen yet. It sounds kind of like another symbolism thing, that it's putting in the minds that the rider is coming, but the rider hasn't actually come yet.
Well, and kind of piggybacking off all that, and I know I've kind of mentioned things like this on the show before, but what I think is super interesting about this, like you said, the symbolism and how the dates and the days work out, that's beyond coincidence, in my opinion. And with a lot of this,
also keep in mind too, the King James Bible, it was rewritten by the royal family, so
and
they already
the
have ties to rewriting the Bible.
Heavily involved in all that. But I've said this before, when it comes to end times and all that sort of thing, whether you believe, not you specifically, just the greater you, whether you believe it or not, believe what the Bible's saying, is almost irrelevant, because we pretty much know these people in power believe this stuff. I mean, it goes back to like, the red heifers and claiming the Temple Mount and, rebuilding the Temple of Jerusalem and all that. Like, these people in power, the powers that be, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, obviously believe these things. And I've been saying, on the show for a while, it just seems to me that they're trying to kind of artificially manufacture these end times events. And this falls right in line with that as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the symbolism could not be any more just beating you over the head blatant as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, even the philosophy behind it. I mean, just one other way to think about it is, these may not be events that are getting ushered in by this force that's beyond us, but a matter of they have the ability to usher in these events. They have the ability to usher in famine. They have the ability to usher in war. They have the ability to do all of these things. So if they're just following the philosophy of it, and they're also using this already created framework that people already have in their minds, they can essentially usher in this without this, again, this extra force that's pushing it in. Like, they have the full means within their power to do all of these things and create all of these apocalypse-like events. And not to mention the whole fact that, you want to get into the whole tech aspect of stuff. And we always talk about like Project Bluebeam and everything. But theoretically, if you want to make an end times apocalypse event, you have all these drones and everything. How hard would it be to convince people that like fire's raining from the sky using like drones and that there's like these like demon faces and everything in the sky?
Like a Project Bluebeam type situation.
Yeah, the same thing could essentially be flipped and be used as this apocalypse event rather than a Project Bluebeam event. But even depending on perspective, both of those things could be the same thing.
Yeah, like we say, one person's demon is another person's alien. And, something else that I think is really interesting about this is, the end time prophecy of, like the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim are supposedly like trapped under the river Euphrates. And then, at the end times, the seals will be broken and these Nephilim spirits will be released. And, getting into things with like the royal family and the powers that be and all that, and, Nephilim bloodlines and all that, like, it makes a lot of sense when you think of these people's like thought process, why they would want to artificially bring about these end times events that they think are going to happen if it, reunites them with their Nephilim ancestors or give them, special powers or whatever. So, I mean, I just think there's so many angles to this, and it's all really interesting. And I'm just like obsessed with this kind of shit. I think it's so fun. Well,
dude, and not just to throw it in too, if you remember,
know what I'm saying, it's interesting, I guess.
Like part of the, I think it was the part of the Pizzagate emails, or part of like one of the like hidden server emails, was the whole thing that they were looking for like the tomb of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, exactly.
And Gilgamesh, from that viewpoint, is also supposedly maybe a Nephilim.
Yeah.
So I mean, we already also have supposedly secret emails going back and forth between even like U.S. politicians talking about the search for these quote folklore characters that they clearly believe actually exist. And not to mention that, but even we've talked about on the show, the government. I mean, the FBI, they got documents you can look up right on their website about them trying to look for where the Ark of the Covenant is. Like, if they didn't believe this stuff, why would they be spending the time, effort, and resources to look for things like, again, the Ark of the Covenant, the Spear of Destiny, like all of this stuff?
Yeah, and I mean, we want to talk like the Nazis were so crazy for, all the occult stuff they were doing, but, our own government's pretty much doing the exact same kind of stuff. They're just a little more discreet about it,
We're written as the good guys. That's the difference.
Exactly. But, I don't really have anything else to add with this one. I just, I thought it was just a super crazy coincidence. I thought, like we said, in light of recent events, there's a lot to unpack with this one. And I was trying to find a more in-depth article. This was about the best I could find. Everything else is kind of just like TikTok videos of people going through it. And I figured it would be more fun for us to discuss it ourselves. So,
well, hopefully we'll have to keep tabs on this. And, if a pale horse all of a sudden starts running rampant on the streets of London, then, we'll fully know something's up,
then
right?
the shit's really hit the fan.
Well, I guess with that, we will move on to the next article. So in spirit of what we've been talking about a lot on the show, it seems like Havana syndrome, this whole idea of frequencies, weapons, like all this stuff has been a regular thing we've been talking about on the show. So in spite of what I had recently mentioned about that whole invasion in Venezuela on a recent episode, I found this article. Researchers skeptical of Havana syndrome test secret weapon on himself. In 2024, a Norwegian research skeptic that pulsed energy weapons could do damage to human brains, built a device and tested it on himself. And it did not go well, of course. As we've already seen multiple times with Havana syndrome. I mean, even just looking at the simplest facts of it, the stuff that's well known to the public, like we already have these like projected heat weapons. Have you seen those ones that they use on like military bases where it's essentially like a laser that they can shoot at somebody?
Yeah.
And they start feeling this like sensation, like their body's being cooked. So they want to like leave the area. Like that's already publicly known. Not to mention, we also have stuff that is laser projections of like being able to like put voices into like people's ears and put into people's heads, like the whole voice of God concept. Oh, lost Orin. Gotta give him a second. If anybody's hanging out. Technical difficulty. Sorry, everybody. Oh, Boo Daddy's back.
Am I back? Okay.
Yep. Sorry, I put up we'll be right back because I didn't know what to do just sitting by myself for a minute, so I'll bring this back up. But as I was mentioning before we got booted out of the studio for a second, did you have any thoughts originally on what I was saying with the whole like projected energy weapons already being somewhat
no, let's just jump right into the article.
Okay, so working in strict secrecy, a government scientist in Norway built a machine capable of emitting powerful pulses of microwave energy, and in an effort to prove such devices are harmless to humans, in 2024 tested it on himself. He suffered neurological symptoms similar to those of Havana syndrome, the unexplained malady that was struck hundreds of U.S. spies spies and diplomats around the world. The bizarre story described by four people familiar with the event is the latest wrinkle in the decade-long quest to find the cause of Havana syndrome. Those sufferers experienced long-lasting effects, including cognitive challenges, dizziness, and nausea. The U.S. government calls the event anomalous health incidents.
That makes it sound way less
scary,
scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, and now it sounds like UFOs. You know, if you give it an acronym, you give it a 3-letter name, it makes it instantly less scary,
and it means
right?
nothing.
And it means absolutely nothing. The secret test in Norway has been previously reported. The Norwegian government told the CAA about the results. 2 of the people said, prompting at least 2 visits in 2024 to Norway by the Pentagon and White House officials. Those aware of the test say it does not prove AHIs are a work of a foreign adversary wielding a secret weapon similar to the prototype tested in Norway. One of them noted that the efforts suffered by the Norwegian researcher, whose identity was not disclosed by the people familiar, were not exactly the same as it is in the classic AHI case. All spoke on the condition of anomaly because of the subject's sensitivity. So I'm already just going to start saying Havana syndrome instead of AHI cases because that's just really
like
confusing.
UAP.
Like I
just refuse to say it.
Yeah, it just sounds ridiculous. But I find it hilarious that this guy is like, yeah, you know, fuck that shit. I'm going to try to build this thing to prove that it's complete bullshit. Ends up having a negative effect on himself. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to disclose my name now. Never mind.
He done got himself.
He done got himself. But the events bolstered the case of those who argue that pulse energy devices, machines that deliver powerful beams of electromagnetic energy, such as microwaves and short bursts, can affect human biology and are probably being developed by the U.S. adversaries. I think there's compelling evidence that we should be concerned about the ability to build a direct energy weapon that can cause a variety of risks to humans, said Paul Fredericks, a retired military surgeon and Air Force general who oversaw biological threats on the White House National Security Council under President Joe Biden. Fredericks declined the comment of the Norway experiment. The Trump administration took office promising to pursue the AHI issue aggressively, but there has been little apparent movement. A review ordered by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is expected to focus mostly on the Biden administration's handling of the issue, and its release has been delayed. People familiar with the issue said. So I'm already going to throw this in here that they're talking about, you know, being worried about U.S. adversaries having these projected energy weapons and everything. But as I was already mentioning, they already have this thing they use on military bases that like it's basically like a heat beam. Like it starts making the inside of your body feel like it's on fire. So imagine like what the capability is already of that. And it's the usual thing that, you know, you're worried about other people doing what you're already doing.
Well, and like we've been saying a lot on the show recently, you know, if we kind of know we've got this level of technology and this shit, you know, what do we actually have that they're not telling us about?
I'm still kind of surprised that even within this article, man, they weren't talking about the whole thing with Venezuela. Like, even amongst conspiracy podcasts, all that stuff. Like I mentioned when we had talked about it, it seemed like it was something that just kind of quickly happened and then it flew under the radar. Like, people are talking about Havana syndrome. It's coming up again, but why is it that the whole Venezuelan thing isn't regularly being brought up? I mean, it's definitely possible that it was a psyop, but considering we already had the capability to do this Havana syndrome type stuff, I don't see it as a ridiculous concept to believe that, 20, 30 years later, we have something that's even stronger that can make people bleed from their ears and, basically puke blood out of their mouth too. Yeah. Like, that doesn't sound that far off. It seems like it's just the next step up as far as an upgrade goes, when again, you already have the heat fucking weapon. So, I mean,
yeah, for sure.
In a separate development that has become public in recent weeks, the U.S. government covertly purchased at the end of the Biden administration a different foreign-made device that produces pulse radio waves in which some experts suspect could be linked to AHI incidents, according to two people familiar with the matter. The device is being tested by the Department of Defense and it has some Russian origin components. Like, the U.S. government still has not determined conclusively who built it, said one of the people. Yeah, okay. It's probably you, and it's just coming back home, and you're just like, I don't know who fucking built this. It seems like that's how a lot of this stuff goes. Like, you hear about all the missiles and everything that are in the Middle East, and then a lot of the time you hear from U.S. soldiers that those missiles are ones that are produced by us. So, like, how the fuck
or
did they
Tony
get those?
Stark, one of the two.
Or Tony Stark. I mean, he learned his lesson inevitably, right? The U.S. inquisition of the device has been reported last month by independent journalist Sasha Ingerber and CNN, which said it has been purchased for millions of dollars by Homeland Security investigations, part of the Department of Homeland Security. The device that the scientists constructed in Norway was not identical to the one that the U.S. government covertly acquired. One of the people familiar with this event said the Norway device was built based on classified information, suggesting that it was derived from blueprints or other material stolen from a foreign government, this person said, aka probably us, because it seems like it's a regular thing that people end up hacking into the U.S. government databases and finding shit, because honestly, you don't know that you need to update your system until somebody's able to hack it. So, I mean, that's kind of how that works.
Got to run a software update.
Exactly. And then what do you do for that guy that ended up hacking you? You offer him a job. Well, not a better guy to build your security system than the guy that broke into your last one, right? At about the same time the U.S. became aware of the two pulse energy machines, two spy agencies altered their previous judgment and concluded that some of the incidents involved AHIs could be the work of foreign adversaries, delivering the verdict in an updated U.S. intelligence assessment issued in January 2025 during the Biden administration's final weeks. New reportings, the assignment said, led the two agencies to shift their assignments about whether a foreign actor was capable and could cause biological effects consistent with some of the symptoms reported as possible AHIs. One was the National Security Agency, which intercepted and decoded foreign electronic communications. Several people familiar with the issue said the other said two of these people was the National Ground Intelligence Center, a U.S. Army intelligence agency in Charlottesville that produced intelligence on foreign adversaries' scientific, technological, and military capabilities. The majority of U.S. intelligence agencies, including the CIA and four others, said that they continue to judge it very unlikely that the attacks were the result of a foreign adversary or that a foreign actor had developed a novelty weapon. In conversations intercepted by U.S. spy agencies, American adversaries were heard expressing their own surprise at the AHI incidents and denying involvement, U.S. officials have said. Because, of course, like most things in the U.S. government, it's all compartmentalized, and the only people that are in the know are the people that need to be in the know. That's how that stuff works. The CIA declined to comment on the Norwegian test on how it impacted the agency's analysis. Norway's embassy in Washington did not respond to a request for comment. Some former officials and AHI victims have pointed to Russia as the prime suspect in the AHI incidents because of its decades of work in direct energy devices. So far, no conclusive proof has publicly emerged, and Moscow has denied involvement. And I just want to throw this one in here, by the way. As usual, it seems like in a lot of these articles, they always want to try to blame Russia. That's always like the go-to. And I'm not going to say that I'm like sympathizing or anything because I don't know the full situation, but I will throw in the fact that anybody that has followed Tesla's work, like Nokia Tesla, not like fucking Elon Musk Tesla, but like the good Tesla. At the end of his life, he was working on these supposed projected energy weapons, and every single government was interested in what he was doing, but they were kind of doing this thing where like nobody really wanted to like get fully involved with him. So he ended up living the rest of his life up in a hotel room, had all of his blueprints, all of that kind of shit. And when he ended up dying, there was the U.S. government that ended up coming in and taking a bunch of his paperwork and everything, along with a bunch of other people. But supposedly one of the people that actually took that information was a relative of Trump, which I don't know the name offhand, so I don't want to like throw any names out there, but people can actually follow this line, and there is a connection to actually Trump having connections to these energy weapons. So I also kind of find it ironic that this comes out during the Trump administration when you already have this connection that his family line was interested in Nokia Tesla's projected energy weapons. And then, you know, obviously they know that there's something to it. That's why every single U.S. government agency is like, yeah, we don't know nothing. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't know where it could possibly be coming from. And it's like, again, if you follow the money, you follow the trail back. It's like all this projected energy weapon shit goes back into U.S. stuff, Nokia Tesla's work, all that kind of shit. So it's like, you know, you always want to blame the adversaries, but you know, you're the one who's actually doing it, and that's why you're worried about other people doing it.
Yeah, I had heard that connection between Nikola Tesla and Trump's, you know, relatives down the line before. I haven't really looked into it myself, so, you know, I can't really speak on how much I, you know, believe it or how much stock I put into it, but I think it's at least an interesting thing to think about.
Like I said, especially just weird timing, man, because all of a sudden, like the stuff in Venezuela again happens during the Trump administration. So it's just like, why is it all of a sudden projected energy weapons are becoming a thing again, and we're seeing them actively used again during this administration? Probably because they've been developing them in the background for years. Taken together, the two known direct energy weapons, along with other research, appears to have prompted a reconsideration by some of the cause of Havana syndrome. So named because of the mysterious 2016 outbreak of symptoms reported by personnel at the U.S. Embassy in Havana. In subsequent years, the U.S. personnel reported hundreds of cases globally in China, Eastern Europe, and elsewhere. A top aide to then CIA Director William J. Burns reported symptoms while traveling in India in 2021. So I'm already just going to throw this one in here. We have a lot of enemies in China. We also have a lot of enemies in Eastern Europe. You know, before the whole thing started happening with, you know, the Ukraine war, the U.S. knew, and we all talked about, the only thing that came out of Ukraine was sex trafficking and hackers. So all of a sudden the perception completely changed as soon as this war started. So it just seems super duper weird that it's like the people that we've always had issues with for years are the places where these weapons are starting to happen. And as soon as people start getting some blame on it of like, oh, kind of weird how it's happening over here, all of a sudden the CIA director's like, oh, I got hit by in India in 2021. Got to take some of the blame off. It hit one of us too, so it must not be us.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, people. At a Foreign Policy Research Institute conference in Philadelphia earlier this month, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Chris, wow, that's a name, Schallingbeck, at times his voice breaking, said he was hit 5 times in 2020 in his home in Northern Virginia, where a Russian family lived across the street. Okay. It was not until last year that a doctor told him his symptoms were the same as those reported from Havana a decade earlier. Much about the Norway test remains obscured by its highly classified nature. People familiar with the event decline the identity to scientists or the Norwegian government agency he worked for. The results were all the more shocking because the Norwegian research had earned a reputation as a leading opponent of the theory that directed energy weapons could cause the type of symptoms associated with AHIs. Those familiar with the event said trying to dramatically prove the point with himself as a human guinea pig, he achieved the opposite, as we were kind of mentioning earlier. But I don't know what possessed him to go and do this. One of the people said he was a bit of an eccentric. A delegation of Pentagon officials traveled to Norway in 2024 to examine the device. In December of that year, a group of intelligence and White House officials also went to Norway to discuss the issue, those familiar with the event said. So at this point, I kind of feel like the article is just kind of repeating the same information, but it seems to me like, you know, we have another case of a projected energy weapon working and them trying to deny cause and pretend like we have absolutely nothing to do with it, when it seems like more often than not, anytime there's a case of projected energy weapons, the U.S. has some type of connection to it. And that's, at least from my opinion, from pattern recognition.
Well, what I think is interesting about it, apart from the whole Havana syndrome angle, what it made me think about is the whole like Maui fires a few years ago when, you know, there's the conspiracy,
Another projected energy weapon.
theory that, you know, it was some sort of directed energy weapons that caused those fires because, like, if, you know, things are painted a certain color blue, it didn't burn them. But then there was like,
maybe another extension of what I was mentioning they use on military bases, just an upgraded version.
Yeah, and there was like weird things where like concrete was burned, but like trees right beside the road wasn't, or I can't remember all the specifics, but there's like a lot of really weird things with just the actual fires of the Maui fires, and that's not even getting into like all the elites and Zuckerberg and Oprah and, you know, all those kind of people wanting to do a land grab there. So that's just kind of what popped into my head is, you know, there's a whole lot of different angles to this directed energy weapons technology that it seems like we've got for, you know, better or for worse.
See, I think we have it, but we know the full capability of it. So again, like I said, we're scared of anybody else having this type of technology because we know the full capacity of it. But it's one of those technologies that it's like you kind of have to use it under the radar, because as soon as people really become like aware that you have it is when people like this start doing things and start trying to recreate them on their own. And it's like, you only run this thing once or twice, and then people know that you're running something weird, and then people start trying to produce this stuff on their own, even to just try to prove that it's false. And ironically, a guy that was trying to prove that it was completely false ended up making a projected energy weapon himself, which proves the fact that these things are definitely possible. Not to mention the fact that, again, we've already kind of been using stuff like this under the radar for years to different capacities. So, I mean, you know, we already kind of see this whole thing where, prime example, man, you go and you hang out at like a rave or something like that.
No, thank you.
And you hang out next to those giant bass speakers. Not that that's my scene either or anything like that. But once you're sitting there for a while with having that like heavy vibration go through your body, you start feeling like sick to your stomach. So it's like, just from that, at least you can already see that these vibrations start causing these negative effects in our body. Because I mean, like I said, it's fun for a while, but after a while, like you start shaking your insides, like you start getting a stomach ache, you start not feeling so great, you start feeling weighed down. So if you actually figure out these specific frequencies that can start making people feel these different ways, like it doesn't seem like a far off concept. It's not a sci-fi concept. I think this is something that, as far as we know from Nokia Tesla, has been worked on since the early 1900s. So imagine the capability of where it could be 126 years later.
And a lot of that can kind of go back to like your human experiment angle with like UFO and alien abduction type cases. I mean, if they've got these weapons that can have these physical effects on people, you know, how many times do we hear people say, you know, so much in the paranormal is energy and vibrations and things like that? Well, if that's the case and they've got these weapons that can manipulate all of that, it kind of makes sense to me that they could almost manufacture these otherworldly or paranormal type experiences.
Dude, I was just talking to somebody on a show the other day about the whole thing with like different light colors that end up happening during like UFO experiences. And I started getting into the whole idea about like color psychology, you know, that they purposely will use certain colors for certain emergency vehicles because they trick your brain into feeling a certain way or giving a certain response, or like you quickly want to move out of the way or whatever. Like these colors, we already see this in like marketing, like they have an effect on our brain. So you start getting into these like UFO cases, and it seems like there's these certain colors that have these certain effects. Like one of the prime ones I was talking about is green seems to have this effect that the person that's being abducted is like fully awake and aware in the room, but everybody else is almost like in this stasis point. And then you hear about the whole thing with the blue light. And when you hear about the blue light, it seems like people have their like astral bodies like pulled out of their physical body, and they have these experiences where they get pulled through the ceiling and things. So it's like, if you have the ability to figure out what light spectrum or what vibration frequency this like full effect gives from these lights, who knows what the potential could be if you could like project these things on people. Like if people are already having an effect from like just the light itself flashing in their eyes, if you could basically immerse them in just whatever vibration frequency that color radiates on, like imagine what the capabilities could possibly be with it. And I mean, like I was kind of mentioning with the whole thing with blue, it's supposed to make people like docile and passive and things. So it's like, that's why they purposely use it for police lights. So it's like this stuff is embedded, I think, through all of tech, through all of everything. And even just connecting in like what you were saying with like the UFO stuff, I think that a lot of what people are experiencing with these light colors and everything are just another variation of projected energy weapons, or using these like vibration pitches or frequencies to have these certain effects on the psyche of the brain.
Well, and what is one of the big things that we always hear about with near-death experiences, going towards the light. And we've, talked before about all the connections and similarities between near-death experiences and alien abductions and things of that nature. So, I mean, at the end of the day, light is just vibration and frequency itself. So, I mean, it makes sense to me that if you can manipulate vibration and frequency in one arena, you could do it, over here in this other arena. So, I don't know. I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it's one of those deals where just what they're telling us and the things we know exist and the technology that we know the government has. I mean, why would we not think that stuff way beyond that is going on?
And as usual, the normal diversion that we tend to fall into with a lot of these different articles. This one came from the Washington Post, so it's like you always see the bias in it that it's like, oh, it must be Russia. Or anytime they talk about conspiracies, like we've talked about on a million other articles, it's like, all right, this is complete bullshit, but like, all right, this part's true. And it's like, all right, well, now your first statement doesn't make sense that it's bullshit because you just proved it with the second statement.
Nothing to see here, right?
Nothing to see here, people. And I guess with that, we will move on to the next article. All right, Orin, so what do you got for us for the more comical article?
Yeah, so as you longtime listeners know, we always try to close out the show with something a little more lighthearted or funny. This one isn't necessarily funny, but it is kind of more lighthearted, and it's from Shayn's neck of the woods, so I thought it'd be fun to share with you guys. This article comes from sportslogos.net, and it is titled, Great Lakes Loons Celebrate Local Myth with Michigan Dogman Alternate Identity. Minor league baseball teams have a tradition of recognizing local cryptids. The Vermont Lake Monsters are named for a mysterious creature that swims the depths of Lake Champlain. The Eugene Emeralds logo features a lurching Sasquatch, and the Dayton Dragons celebrate their hometown's association with flight with a mythical animal rather than an airplane. The Great Lakes Loons, High A affiliates of the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Midwest League, will commemorate their own local folklore when they take the field as the Michigan Dogmen for select games in 2026. While the logo has a fierce quality about it, the Dogman is not meant to be scary. In what fucking universe is the Dogman not meant to be scary?
That's a pretty dope-ass logo, though. I'm going to say that's a pretty horrifying logo, and I like it. I got to get one of these hats, man.
This isn't a story of fear, the team said in a statement. It's a story of curiosity, wonder, and the thrill of adventuring into the unknown. The Dogman isn't a monster lurking in the dark. It's the spirit of the wild, a reminder of the magic that comes alive when we gather outdoors, eyes wide with excitement, sharing stories under the starry skies, said someone who knows nothing about Dogman.
I just want to throw in that they seem like they're trying to justify why they would use a cryptid as a logo, and I wore the perfect hat today.
I saw that, yeah.
Anybody that's fully aware of hockey, the New Jersey Devils, yes, that is named after the Jersey Devils. So we already have major teams that are using cryptids as logos, so like, why are they trying to justify like, oh, it's not scary, we're trying to use it as a logo, where it's like, again,
well,
New
and they're
Jersey
a minor
fucking
league
Devils.
baseball
Like,
team,
come on
who
now.
fucking cares? But anyway, the article says the suite of logos includes a campfire, recognizing that the story of the Dogman is often shared at night in the woods. The legend of...
Looks like a Boy Scout patch.
Yeah, that's the weakest of the logos, in my opinion. The legend of the Michigan Dogman dates back to 1887, when a witness in Wexford County, Michigan, reported seeing a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed, half-dog, half-man walking on 2 feet. The Dogman is said to appear once a decade during years that end in 7, which I had never heard that before.
Hey, I threw it in back in the OG episodes. If everybody remembers, I covered the Michigan Dogman as a 3-part series when you first hopped onto the show. And we did cover this pretty extensively as far as Bizarre Encounters goes.
Okay, well, I just didn't remember it. So, that's...
It was kind of a quick passover. It was part of like the song, if you remember, like the Steve Cook song and everything. So it's like, it became part of the folklore because of the song. So it's just like I had it in there when I was kind of talking about the song, but it's not like a exclusive part of it because it's kind of weird. It's like the people that just kind of follow the folklore, they're like, oh, it appears every 7 years. But everybody that lives in Michigan's like, yeah, we have regular sightings in the Manistee constantly. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, maybe that's why I just glossed over that, because that just totally appears to not be the case. But anyway.
Because I think I continued on after that with a list going like every 2 months with another Dogman encounter. So I just completely threw it out. threw it out of the mindset.
Closing out the article, it says the loon season will begin on April 3rd, which is about a month out at the time of this recording, with specific dates for Dogman games yet to be announced. And if you want to scroll through the article there, Shane, I think there's some more pictures. And the second link I sent you is straight from the minor league baseball team's website, and it's got some more pictures of like the logos and some of the merch, which is pretty sweet, if I do say so myself.
Bringing it up now so that all of our awesome listeners can check it out. Yeah, I definitely think that looks like a Boy Scout patch. That's probably the length of the logos, but it's a sleeve detail, so I guess that kind of makes sense. Fair enough, but even the Dogman with the Woodsman, I think that was pretty solid logos.
So there's like the hats and the t-shirts and the jerseys you can buy. So I might have to scoop me up one of these hats.
$60.
They're pretty sweet.
Yeah, I might have to drop $60 on a hat as much as
and you're from Michigan. I mean, this is in your backyard, so you got to do it.
This is right up my alley. I'm gonna feel crazy if I don't.
You should get a jersey and get like Shane Squatch 69 on the back of it.
Hell yeah, brother!
Oh shit!
Dude, I think you mentioned it in the last article too. For everybody that's out in the Midwest, I believe that Washington's team, I don't know if it's this year, but I believe that they have a Bigfoot incorporated with their logo too, right? Or was that like a year or two ago?
I'm not sure. It mentioned some team in Washington, like a minor league baseball team that used a Sasquatch in its logo. And I know several years ago, the Colorado Avalanche, the NHL team, had like a Sasquatch foot as their alternate logo. I think they've since changed it, but I always loved that logo. I thought it was so cool.
Dude, for all the like ridiculous things that they have as logos, considering that there's like half of the teams that exist in the US that are basically just variations of saying Native American, like let's get a little bit more original, man. Like, what not a better way to get more original than the folklore of your fucking state? Like, fuck the Tigers, bro. There's no Tigers in Michigan. Let's just make the fucking Major League Baseball team the fucking Michigan Dogman. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Or the Ohio Grassman instead of, no, but they changed it. It's not the Cleveland Indians anymore. It's the Cleveland, what is it? Yeah, the Guardians. Fuck the Guardians, man. Make it the Ohio Grassmen. That'd be fucking awesome, man. Make it all come out wearing ghillie suits and shit. It'll be like the like the major or like the Super Bowl halftime show, except it'll just be the Major League Baseball team.
So I don't know if you heard this story. I think it was the Arizona Coyotes. They moved to Utah a couple years ago, and they were like doing a survey to try to figure out what the new name of the team was. And one of the heavily rumored options was the Yeti, and they're going to have like a Bigfoot type creature as their logo. But I think there was like some sort of kerfluffle with like trademark infringement or something, so they ended up not going with it. But I was like, man, if there's like a Yeti hockey team, I'm definitely going to have to get like a hat or a jersey or something.
How long do you think it takes before people start saying that using Bigfoot is racially insensitive because it's another variation of like a Native American folklore thing?
I think like, not to get political or anything, like the people who normally like rail against like sports teams names and things like that probably don't know enough about like Bigfoot or any of those connections that they would even see that. So that one would probably like slide right under the radar.
Unless it becomes a major team, which, like I said, man, I feel like it's inevitable that we're kind of getting to this like weird corner where like all the team names kind of suck. They don't really fit the cities because they've all kind of shifted multiple times. Like, it's very few teams that have actually like stayed in the original cities that the names make sense. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like we almost need like a revamp, and we should do an entire league where it's all like, folklore creatures from each state, because that'd be a killer fucking league.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, you could
if
have
not, man, we should start a thing amongst podcasters where we just start a kickball league where all of us start our teams from our own states and we all live under our cryptids.
Yeah, you could do like the Kentucky Goblins. That would be like a great sports team name if like Kentucky ever got a pro sports team, which probably won't happen. But
dude, we should start an official basketball league, because that would be absolutely perfect. We can do some crazy psych outs using like goblin masks and like fucking Dogman masks and stuff, man. Basketball, that's the way to go, man. We should start an official cryptid basketball team.
Well, and I think like minor league baseball is the perfect, kind of sport and league to do this sort of things, because, it's not like, the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics or, all these teams that have been around for 100 years or whatever and have these like really entrenched brands. Like, it's minor league baseball. Like I said, who cares? Like, you might as well have some fun with it. And I think leaning into kind of local folklore and tradition, I mean, that's got to sell more merch than if you just have some generic random ass name.
Dude, imagine how much like just the merch sells in general, man. Like, I don't know if it's made it all the way down to you, but we used to have this team called the Detroit Vipers, which was like a semi-pro like hockey team. And at the time, like obviously that was during like, you know, the 8 for like the Red Wings and everything, but the Vipers were just as fucking popular because they had a killer fucking logo. They had this like purple and blue that really fit the like early 90s, 2000 shit. Like these semi-pro teams, like they end up killing it with the logos, and the ones that kill with the logos, weirdly enough, stick around forever because it's like the Michigan Vipers aren't around. But being a Michiganer, if anybody mentions the Michigan Vipers, dude, everybody knows the logo by heart because they had such a killer fucking logo, dude. Like that's the only way you can really make it with these teams. But I kind of miss it, man. It seems like as all these sports, as we've constantly talked about in these episodes, are all just getting completely rigged. There's way too much stuff involved with betting and everything. I kind of feel like there's going to be this shift possibly where people kind of like move more into like these semi-pro teams. But again, once people do that, it's only a matter of time before they become compromised too. And then, you know, everybody's just all fucked. But, you know, it's a hard thing with sports that it's like, where can you really like trust things anymore? And the only place that you can really get like authentic games a lot of the time, it feels, is like the semi-pro teams.
Well, and it's just so damn expensive to go to any sporting event now. Like they've
Holy
priced,
shit! Yeah, when I was a kid, it was like $20 for a ticket.
People out of going to professional sports. Like me and my buddy at work were looking the other day at Carolina Hurricanes tickets, and granted they're like pretty good this year, but like a nosebleed seat was like $150. So no fucking way, man! I'm not paying that much money to sit closer to the roof than the floor. You know.
Dude, the fucking nosebleeds for New Jersey Devils versus Red Wings because I want to see, you know, my team in fucking Detroit. $160 fucking dollars. Like that's insane for nosebleeds. Like, can you imagine how much the fucking like lower rink seats are? They got to be dropping at least probably like Taylor Swift fucking ticket price. They're dropping like $2,000 on them motherfuckers, easily. But people made a huge issue with that for concerts. But why is it not a problem with, you know, with sporting events that you can charge ridiculous amounts for shit? Like fucking World Series tickets, Super Bowl tickets. No doubt in my mind, dude. There's people that are probably spending upwards of like $10,000. Oh yeah,
easily.
Tickets.
Like,
but that's not even
any Super Bowl, you know, college national championship game ticket is thousands of dollars. But I was kind of going to, circle back around to a point you made where people are kind of gravitating more toward these, lower leagues and things like that. And yeah, if like professional sports have priced
like they really want
people out, it just makes sense. Like people still need shit to do on the weekends, so yeah, you'll go see a Michigan Dogman game, and it's kind of fun when you don't spend hundreds of dollars and are super emotionally invested in something. Go to the Dogman game, drink a couple beers, eat a couple hot dogs, just have a good time. Like it makes a lot of sense to me that there's definitely a market that these type teams can tap into.
Dude, and I mean, just off the simple fact, too, that, like you were mentioning, people just want somewhere to be able to go on a weekend, not get too invested in stuff. And these teams are trying to make it to the pros. So, like, they're playing like they really, really fucking mean it. A lot of these pros, they start getting into these contracts where they make so much fucking money that they just, like, stop caring because they're like, yeah, I'm in contract. I don't really give a fuck. But if you want to see, like, a good, solid game, like, I remember, again, going back to, like, the Michigan Vipers, like, those motherfuckers played like they were trying to just play their fucking heart out like there was no tomorrow. Like, if you want to see a good fucking game, go watch a semi-pro game because they're really trying to prove it to somebody that they are a good player. Like, it's way better gameplay anyways.
Well, and if you're going to a baseball game, like, it's all fucking boring anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, go watch fucking hockey.
That's too expensive to go see now anyway, but
it's all the ice cost, right? They got to chalk it up to the ice. It's the Zamboni. The Zamboni ride fucks it up for everybody. Goddamn Zambonis.
So is that tonight's takeaway point? It's the Zamboni's fault?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always the Zamboni guy's fault. So, normally everybody kind of cheers and loves the Zamboni guy. Yeah, fuck that guy.
All right, so I know that was not super duper cryptid related or anything like that, but I thought it would be something fun to talk about, and we kind of went on a little tangent there at the end, but I still had fun. Do you have anything else to add on this one, Shane?
I feel like sports rants are weirdly becoming a regular thing on the show, so that's totally okay because sports and conspiracies are starting to be intertwined into each other anyway.
Oh,
so
we're just slowly making this show just a combination of all of our kind of interests and our hobbies.
Yeah, we got sports that we talk about. We got conspiracies. We got the occult. We got aliens. We got cryptids. We got psychology. Just anything and everything that could be under the realm of bizarre. I guess that's just kind of what
even if it's not that bizarre, we'll still talk about it. So.
Hey, and soon enough, we'll even be breaking into serial killers. So there's just another one that we're going to end up getting into, too, because why not?
All right, guys, on that note, our next live episode of Bizarre Inquiries is going to be Thursday, April the 2nd. It's going to be, again, roughly 7:15 Eastern Time on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube channel. So you guys be sure to submit any questions, articles, any topics you want us to talk about, whether that be sports or cryptids or anything else. Just shoot them our way. And also be sure to join us in the chat during the episode. We had some good participation in the chat today. Shout out.
Always appreciate you guys.
And shout out to my buddy Nelson from Flavors of the Forest, raw garlic dust. And thank you again, man, for sending me that care package over the holidays. That was awesome. And if anyone wants to get in touch with us for any reason whatsoever, Shane, how can they do that?
Depending on which show you are listening on, you guys can get a hold of us through bizarreencounters@outlook.com or Inquiries of Our Reality podcast@outlook.com. Or you guys can always get a hold of us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the two that we're the most active on. You guys can also get a hold of us through the submission form, which is available up at the top of both of the link trees. And you guys can also call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you happen to miss that, it is available down in the show description. And if you guys are interested in supporting the show and all of the hard work behind it, one of the best ways that you guys can do that is by going and checking out the Patreon with now just one tier available. You guys get full access over there for just $2.50 a month, trying to make it super duper simple because nobody wants an additional subscription. And if you guys want to see what it's all about, there is a 7-day free trial available. And Orin, how else can
you guys can also check out the Bizarre Reality Media merch store with t-shirts starting at the oddly specific and astronomically low price of just $15.68. Wow, plus shipping.
Meestings got real excited about that one. And I know times are tough out there, but if you guys would like to support the show in some other ways, the absolute best way that you guys can do that is by leaving a review or rating for the show. Anywhere that you guys happen to listen to the show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anything. And what's the typical rule
1
for
and
that,
5
Warren?
stars only.
And with that, of course, you will either get our love and respect or you will get ridiculed, but either way, we will have fun with it.
And you guys... Oh,
and I know...
Sorry.
Well, go ahead.
Also,
No,
like, share, and subscribe. Do all the internet things. You know how the internet works.
And if you guys are interested in catching live shows and video content, you guys can also go and check out the Bizarre Reality Media TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble channels.
And share the show with your friends, your family, your enemies, anybody you think would either like or dislike the show. Share it with them. And if you want to keep up to date with us, be sure to check out the Instagram and Facebook pages.
And every single thing that we mentioned is all available on the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And as usual, I have been the one, the only, the original Shane Squatch.
And I have been the big, bad Boo Daddy himself, Orin Felix.
And don't forget to always keep those inquiries bizarre and always remain and stay bizarre.
It was that damn Sasquatch. Oh! That was really loud.
Shake your wee wee.
Brother.